Sorry for cutting you short, Mike. I'm now thinking of when we brought kind of semi-professionalism to Kenya, and we had Shujaa training for 4 days in a week, from 6 a.m. to roughly 10 a.m. at Brookhouse. I remember my first week. I thought I was dying. To be honest, I think yes, we can say that all these players who we had in the pipeline back then, they were great players, but looking at what they were used to and trying to change, that culture of hey, let's go grab a beer after practice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You try to change that, I guarantee you most of those guys will have quit because it would have stopped being worth it. But see, now we have a generation of players who are like, oh, this is what I have to do to play for Shujaa. So if they indeed want to do that, they must do 4 day sessions. They have to practice from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every morning. And that's 3 sessions in there in the morning before you go to class, before you go to school or anything. And I did that, and it sucked when I was in college. And for those few weeks that I had that going on, and I remember.
But it helps to have a roadmap, right? As a young player, somebody aspiring, you have a roadmap now, and you talk about the early 2000s. There was always allegations of like favoritism, like this guy was in the squad because his Zax was this guy. And why is he here? Why are these guys playing? Then there was the time when it's like, why are all the Impala guys in the 7th squad? Why are these Queens guys there? Like now I think there's a level of accountability in selection where you look and you say, you know what? Okay, they've gone through trials. There's a panel that's selecting these guys. And so, the favoritism that was, the allegations of favoritism have kind of gone away. I haven't heard that from anyone in the union or like fans and like the people who are close. And if you want to share, you're smiling, please.
Yes.
Share. Yes, go ahead.
We are human, and bias will always be there.
Yes, true.
We are. Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
When you have a pool of 20, and they're evenly skilled, all of them, and you have to select 12 to travel, you will select your favorites.
That's fine, but if you have somebody who's not evenly skilled, or maybe it has a position who's been picked on tour, when there are multiple questions about their skill level, fitness, or ability, then that's different from like you have like, and as a coach you'll have a preference. Maybe you have 2 guys who are relatively the same. You can't really put them apart. You're going to go with the one that you're more comfortable with because you trust him more. Maybe you've had him play for you more. Right?
Again, because we don't wanna air dirty linen on the show. What we're saying is we're human, and bias will always exist.
That's true.
So again, by the time you're calling up a player to the 7th team, to Shujaa, you've watched him play through the local circuit, probably 6 tournaments. Now it's 6 tournaments, right? You've watched them play. You know where their abilities are. You know where they'll perform at best, right?
Yeah.
As the head coach. So, if you now have this pool of 20 good players, right? And so-and-so is good at this, so-and-so is good at this, so-and-so is good at this. But there's still that bias. We're human. There's still that bias. You're like, okay, yeah, he's good, but I still don't like this club. Those things,
fair enough.
Believe me or not, they still exist.
They're still there. They
still exist.
And I believe you.
Yeah.
I think for me, all I'm saying is that if you look at our best fly halves today, right? Who's our best fly half? Who's our best creator? It's Tony Omondi, right? Would you say?
I will not say.
I'd say Nigel.
Yeah,
okay, Nigel.
I'll say Nigel.
Okay,
actually.
so let's say Nigel's the best creator right now. If you look back through the ages, who are the fly-ups? Biko Adema, Lavin Asego, Sami Kakame. So if you never watched Sami Kakame play, because you watched it up close, I watched it on his side, knowing if I always run off his shoulder, there's a ball coming back in, and I will hit that thing at pace, right? And Are there better fly halves in Kenyan history than what we have right now? I think so. Is Pablo Murunga better center than what we have right now? Is he better than Billy the Kid? Is he better than Opongo Dwar, who could play hooker and center? You know, versatile. And so I think for me, it's not like I'm saying that the older era would definitely supplant the guys who are playing right now. I'm just saying that they could play at this level, given the opportunity. It's just they were born in a different generation. It's just their bad luck, right? Mm-hmm. That's my case.
Agreed.
So I mean,
the players.
So I mean, Mods and Kibu, you're given you argued your cases for Collins Injera and for Oscar Ouma. You had asked me who I'd start as whatever my all-time favorite in Shujaa. It would be Lavina Sego, just for the fact that taking over the mantle at number 10, this Sami Kakame has left the scene. Steve Gishuki has also left the scene. Kanyi Gitonga, all around the same time. So everything is now on the shoulders of Lavina Sego, 21 at the time, and first of all, playing with that maturity of somebody 10 years older. And literally at the heart of everything Kenya Sevens did for that time. And it's unfortunate his Achilles tendon injury, cut short his career. Must have been 2013 or thereabouts when he ruptured it.
13, 14? Yeah.
13, 14, Las Vegas, right?
Yeah. Was it Japan? Must have been Japan.
Tokyo, yes, Tokyo. First Kenyan player to reach 1,000 points. This was somebody who was creating, kicking for goal. And you see, one of the things that we lacked ever since Lavina Sego left was that creativity. This to take nothing away from the other playmakers who filled in, but also his accuracy with the boot, because he'd get us points. Remember, that has always been a problem area for Kenya. The only other person who ever came close was Mitch Ochola's younger brother, Peter Ochola. Burst onto the scene, but knee injury, kicked him out of contention. He never really fully recovered. I think he's one of those guys who made a cameo appearance and had an impact and was a good replacement for Lavin. But yeah, for me, it's Lavin through and through. And I liked, especially as he grew older, knowing that he doesn't have the pace, but more so has the vision. You could actually, he's a kind of player. Both of us have played with those kind of players who we know are old, and they actually know where the gap is, and they point for you. They tell you Nihapa. There's nothing as blatant as that. So to have that audacity, and I feel that it rubbed off to the rest of his teammates. So that's the reason I go with Lavina Sego.
Yeah.
I'll shout out one other fly half who I remember didn't have as much of a run as they could have, injuries and other stuff, but you got Sami Oliech.
Yes.
Yeah. The former St. Mary's boy, Impala, right? Yep. That boy was stellar. That boy was good. And, it's a shame he didn't get to play more, because I think as a creative mind, he had vision, he had that pace. He had, typically fly halves aren't supposed to be as quick as he was, but he had that pace. So, going through the generations, there's people who I feel like could step up and be in this generation, but yeah, shout out to Sami Oliech. He was
there's people who had unlucky stints, like you mentioned. Peter Ochola. I played with Peter Ochola when he had a brief stint at Strap, and he still had the brilliant flashes of his side steps and all that. There's people I believe should have had. Well, Eden eventually had his shot, and he did some good tournaments for Shujaa. So Eden gave us what he had. There's someone who I believe was not given a fair chance to give us what he had. Keegan Kevin.
Oh yes.
Keegan Kevin was a special player, and every time you'd see him play at Queens, you're wondering what is still lacking, Oh yes, he's tiny, yes, and we were this phase where we wanted everyone to be big, but then when you look at all the South African playmakers, they're all tiny, and they're effective as any other person. And it was unfortunate that we never got Keegan to showcase what he had. And anyways, it is what it is, right? That bias that you're talking about.
Fun fact about Keegan Kevin. His dad, Sami Onyango Jogo, is a former Harambee Stars international. Passed away a few years back, but the dad was number 7, terror on the wing. So you're probably seeing where Keegan got his nimble-footedness from. It's just that I'm sure the dad was expecting him to be a soccer player because he's named after the former England manager and superstar Kevin Keegan, but ended up playing rugby. But yeah, that was a gem of a talent.
Oh yeah.
Oh, shout out to Daniel Tabu too.
Oh yeah,
he was nice.
Yeah,
You go through those generations. Him and Olindi, there was a time that they never played much together. Like usually it was one on the field or the other. But like in a time when we were like aren't as good as we've been in certain generations, Tabu and Olindi was something special. So yeah. So like they're littered. There's brilliance littered throughout the generations going back. I just think given a fair shot and given opportunity, I just feel like the talent is there all the way back into the 90s that and there are players who would conform and there are players who just don't like change, right? So that's a personality thing too. So
yeah. And you mentioned Samuel Liech, and I couldn't help think about Nigel Amaitsa, because for me I feel Nigel Amaitsa is the latter day reincarnation of Samuel Liech in everything he does. He's brilliant, he's quick, he has the eye for the gap.
Yeah.
Pulls these rabbits out of the hat, and you just feel in a perfect world, Samuel Liech would be handing over the baton to Nigel, because even in a game, that would be a like-for-like replacement, literally. So you push the intensity for all 14 minutes of a sevens match,
Yeah. Feel it. I like it.
Now that we're talking about, we've talked about all the generations and all this. Maybe the one thing that we've been unable to do as a country is transition all this, all these great players and get it right in 15s for once. In your opinion, Kibui, what do you think we're doing wrong? Before I chime in to what I think there's systemic challenges, but what do you think?
There's systemic challenges, but our issue, and I've been saying this, and I talked to Paulo Dera, he was my captain in St. Mary's as a football player, but I talked to him about it and I said, why can't we fix our set piece? I don't get it. Like even today, like I'm a prop, so I used to play hooker when I played, but I'm robust enough to play prop, and it's technical, it's desire. And when I see them like just packing down for a scrum, I can already tell, look, how can you have been in camp for like years and you still don't have the straight back, and like you need to drop like a Citron. Remember those cars, the Citrons? You have to have that ability to drop and hold your bind and like have the flat back. Until today, let me tell you, it drives me wild. I see them pack down for a scrum and I just think we're about to get blown off the ball. So until we learn how to scrummage, Kenya will not qualify for any World Cup. Yeah. Until we get our set piece consistency, until we can actually hit those rucks with the ferocity and get that quick ball, because the flair we have, running an open play we have, the backs do their job. And then our forwards are running like backs, so they do their job too. But the forwards need to do their job and front up. So until that happens, for me, Kenya will just continue going to repechage, and then we get blown away. That's, I want to go to a World Cup for Kenya, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm sorry.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
I'll talk about the systemic challenges. Kwambo and myself, coming from Western Kenya, we were shunned as, the rough guys in the school who didn't want to conform to what everyone else wants in the environment, right? I remember every time I went home and I had grass burns on my legs, and when I get home with the injuries, the first thing that my parents will tell me is, "What happened there?" I was just playing rugby. Oh, okay. Give me your examination report card. Oh, what position were you? Oh, you were position 25 out of 50. Okay, so you're just a middle, performer in class, right? Now imagine if you quit playing rugby. You would be top of the class, right?
Yeah.
So I never received any support from my family to pursue my love for this sport. Up until when I got a scholarship to go to Strathmore, right? And even then, they were like, oh, wait, they're paying us your tuition? We're not sure. We have to. It took the folks being called for an actual meeting to the school. Hey, listen, we're actually paying this kid's tuition. All you need to pay is 25% that's remaining.
Yes.
You know? So that they could actually believe and sign a contract.
Yeah.
And even after that, they were like, yeah, you still have to figure out your life. You should stop focusing on this sport.
Yeah.
That one time when we won the tournament and we were in the news, that's the first time that people came to pick me up at the airport, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's our kid,
Yeah.
Now imagine if all these kids who are, we've inspired generations. We've inspired generations, winning all those tournaments and all that. There was a kid who saw that and wants to be us and wants to do better for the country, right?
Yeah.
But if we can't change our sporting culture as a country and invest in the sport from the grassroots level, then we will not build scrummaging machines, right? What do you think?
For me, scrummaging it's a technical thing. It's wrestling, right? At its very core, scrummaging is wrestling and understanding the mechanics behind wrestling and working as a unit. You don't need a scrum machine for that. You can literally go 10 guys, tight 5 on 2 sides, and you work on it. And I think there isn't enough emphasis on investing in that piece, because the flair is in 7s. The acclaim is in 7s. It's in the fast running, the fast running version of the game. People aren't excited about packs scrummaging down, and like even our props, I'm sure half of them don't even want to scrummage down. They want that big man ball back in, right? You have to want to scrummage. You have to need that desire. You have to be, there was a guy called Polycarpo, and a guy called Shingo. These are the guys that I learned my craft against. Absolute monsters who live to just squeeze your neck and you walk out of the practice like this because your neck is dead. That was the practice session. Those guys wanted to scrummage. So until we have like young guys who want to do that, and then we have the coaching. I was saying they need to go to Georgia. Go get a wrestling coach from Georgia. Fly a guy down. But why are we getting a wrestling coach for Georgia? We have internationals who wrestle for Kenya. Yeah. Bring those guys into camp. Until we actually get that commitment to scrummage and the investment from KRU, which that's a whole nother story, since KRU is what it is right now today. Until that happens, we're just going to be the bridesmaids. We're going to be the country that should be at a World Cup, that can bring revenue and bring the flair. Can you imagine the guys, Kenyans in a World Cup during a game? Madness.
Yeah.
Madness. And we're being deprived. I feel like we've been deprived, and we were also Rans. I remember that. Do you remember Madagascar, Kwambo? You were there. In fact, you were probably on the fringe of that squad, Mots. When we won that first game, and then we just had to hold that last game against Namibia. Was it against Namibia?
It was Zimbabwe. We
beat Namibia. We couldn't beat Zimbabwe.
We shocked Namibia in the opener.
And that's when they brought Tall back in for that game. And I think, I don't know, the chemistry from that first... the chemistry from the first two games was gone. And I understand bringing Tall in because he is who he is, but it's like we were this close. And I remember throwing something at my laptop that day, just going... Now we wait another 4 years.
Yeah.
But that's the closest we've ever got.
Yeah. Well, if you ask me, I look at it. I had the privilege of playing for the under-20s, the under-21s back then, with some seriously talented folk back then. And I just feel, again, because we don't plan a lot of things, obviously we were not going to break into the 15s immediately. But, at age grade and transitionary level, you need to keep these players busy. I know it takes funds, it takes resources, but you need to be intentional about them, in terms of how you're going to develop their skills and everything so that we can compete. That's in the 15th version of the game. For 7s, we have decided that 7s is our bread and butter. And I think we're probably, us and Uganda for the longest time, are the only countries where we look at, starting you in 15s and ending you out in 7s when it's totally opposite. Okay.
I have some.
Cool. We're dropping off soon. Yeah. So totally. I mean, we're looking at it as the bread and butter. Until we get it right, we need to be competing at all levels, whether it's 7s and 15s. We need to have our under 20s consistently competing against the likes of Namibia, Zimbabwe, at that level. So you become competitors. When you meet them at a higher level, you already know what it takes. And that's been the problem, number one. Then number two, again, taking sports seriously. Because like you, I broke my hand in third form.
Yeah.
First time third form. And I had to go back to Nairobi for surgery because me, I just thought it was something I can, whatever. So I missed the whole time of school. When I went back, I was nearly last in the stream. I was 235 out of 237. So I was told, boss, that time, you pull up your socks, which I did. But now I've been banned from rugby by the folks. The teammates want you to play rugby, so catch 22. You have to play.
Yeah. And
it took me, first of all, like the whole first year playing rugby at Impala, lying to my folks that if Ladis is every weekend. Till one day, in like a game I scored and my folks were watching. Then my mom was like, you play this game. Then when I got my passport and played for Kenya, that was it. But you see, until we are able to tell people that sport can also be beneficial to you, I think it's all good. And once we're able to fuse that and tell everybody, like, it's good to get an education, but not everybody's gonna be in that workplace. Not everybody's gonna be a white collar employee. Yeah. Do whatever it is, fuse your talents with your education to make the most for you. And I think that's the biggest problem. So until we're able to get rugby, to get sport as a sellable idea, we are in the dogs. I know there's other things you'd want to do, but before I let you go, I have to pull up this photo. 2016 Singapore Sevens final, right?
Yeah.
How did it feel? Yes, you said you just played for a minute, but just being in that whole setup, what was this feeling like when you guys? Okay, let's first talk about the tournament. Your journey, like how you ended up in the squad, because you were not in Hong Kong the previous weekend. I was in Hong Kong. You came in as a replacement for Biko. Yeah. And in the office, you were actually saying you are the good luck charm.
Yeah, right? I got a lot of that. So here, I like describing this to people and telling them that this was opportunity meeting preparedness. So I was part of the squad all through the season, contracted, and always was a non-traveling reserve, first or second non-traveling reserve. So at this specific tournament, there was two non-traveling reserves. There was Alex Olaba and there was myself. So he was contracted with Strath at that time. So when Biko got injured, he was the first one to be called, hey, you're replacing Biko. I was like, okay, well, it seems my season is about to end, right? Then because he was contracted with Strath did not release him to travel. So I was the other option. Oh, we have two reserves, right? Oh, just bring the other one, right? So I got there. The vibes were great. The environment was great. The previous year, I think 2014, I had been to Singapore with Impala for the Singapore Cricket Club Sevens. So I knew my way around Singapore. I knew how the weather was. We'd played in an open stadium. This was a closed one. So I knew some stuff. And this was the first time the Sevens was brought to Singapore after a while, I think. And so players were having a really Japan. Oh yeah, usually it was in Japan, they moved it to Singapore. So I knew my way around, and I knew, how we adapted to, at least catching with the ball when, the conditions were moist and all that. And so people listened to me at practice, and everyone was happy. Everyone was, so by the time I did not expect us to win, honestly, but the energy was good. The build-up was good. And at this time, we just talked about having had Paul True as a coach who had explained the whys to most of the players who were in this setup. So this setup had a lot of players from the Paul True era. And then we had a group of players who were either in the Paul True setup and younger players who were not in that setup but were quick to learn. So there was a team of people who had crafted their own style of play. Now that ownership of the style of play from the players is what set this team apart. This team owned, this is how we're going to play. And the vibe was good that day. Opportunity met preparedness. And the cup came home. I still don't believe that, we actually won that day, because it just looks like, oh, wait, we actually did it. And every time I see Kenya in the finals, like this season, I was like, these guys need to break this jinx. They have to bring it home. And we keep falling short. But if we keep knocking that door, it's unfortunate that what has happened with the sevens right now. I don't know how we will ever get a shot again at getting ourselves in that environment, because if you're not actively playing in that environment, you can't adapt to what the environment throws at you unless you're there actually. So I don't know, Mike. Maybe it's a silver lining for us to focus on 15s and maybe work the other way around. But with the lack of funding from the World Rugby Grant, I don't know where we stand actually. Yeah.
I look at it and say, I think this is the best opportunity to popularize the game more on the African continent. I think this is the time like-minded unions, Kenya, Uganda, the likes, do their own regional competitions. And African Sevens Circuit have tournaments in Nairobi, Kampala, Harare, Lusaka. Let's play more amongst ourselves. We need to keep the fire burning. Now, talking about tournaments, we are coming to a close. Cape Fear Sevens. I know you've been driving a lot around Cape Fear. Yes. For the uneducated, especially like me, I've just seen all this conversation around Cape Fear. What's it all about? And just you're the man in the helm, so tell us more.
Cape Fear Sevens. So in the US, we have a diaspora team, which is basically Kenyans who moved from Kenya, moved to the US and still want to have a feel of that rugby community that we have at home. So Kenyans hate the cold, first of all. So we picked the warmest place that we can go to play rugby, North Carolina, Wilmington. So they have an annual tournament named Cape Fear, and we just do a select side. We have players who have played, some who have played for Shujaa, some who have played local clubs in Kenya. And so we have that thing in common, and we are able to, form a team on the fly because we play the same brand of rugby. So what it is for me is, this is me meeting with my mates from Kenya, just connecting, enjoying 2 days of rugby, and having that feel that you get when you're at Prinsloo in Nakuru, or you're at Driftwood in Mombasa, because Cape Fear is a beautiful event. You basically have the best of both worlds. You have the rugby in the field, you have the field parties, then we have beach parties too, because Wilmington has a really nice sandy beach. So I get a feel of all the tournament locations. I get some of Prinsloo, I get some of Driftwood, I get some of Kisumu, all of them in one tournament for one weekend, and we relive our days as players. I don't know how long I'll be able to play, but I intend to keep this, to be part of this community, to just meet up with Kenyans in the diaspora.
Great. And how can people chime in, and support? I know you've been active. There's a community me and you are part of. Yes. But just like putting it out there, how can people chime in, especially towards the Kenyan team that will be representing there?
So we are inviting people who want to partner up with us to support the endeavor. So first of all, this is a community-run club, and we hope to participate in other events around the US. So we're looking for partners who want brand visibility, and we have packages that we've set aside that, we can do marketing for your brand. You can be a jersey sponsor or a short sponsor, kid sponsor, anything like that. You can sponsor our warm-up jerseys and things like that. We'll give you visibility at the tournament, outside the tournament. You can fund a player to travel. You can, there's all these nice packages that we've had. So everybody has the ability to chime in at any level that they're at. If you're a corporate, we can work with you and figure out, how we can support your goals and how you can also help us achieve our goals as our community club, the Kenya Exiles. Individuals, we welcome all the individuals. Bring a friend, in the Kenyan diaspora. Just bring as many Kenyans out who are in the US. It's a free tournament. It's a free event. You can also bring your US friends. They don't have to be Kenyans, right? And of course, we'll keep building, one big community that supports each other, be it socially, economically, or whatever we can do to help each other.
Great. And I'm sure you're going to share the details. We're going to put them up at the close of the show. Yep. Well, this has been the Armchair Analysts. It has been a great 1 hour, 32 minutes. We were with Kibui Bad and Sami Motari. Definitely looking forward to doing this again sometime soon. Sami, I know it's a Friday night, not even evening. There's other things you could be doing, but you chose this. Thank you so much for your time. It's always appreciated.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.